Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So today is day 2 of the voluntary OTA process for the New York Jets, and Saleh addressed the media. This OTA practice will be open to the media, so I was actually going to combine both the Saleh press conference along with the practice recap in one video, but I just got done watching the Saleh press conference, and man, there's a lot of stuff that he kind of dove into here. A lot of topics I wanted to tackle. So I honestly just didn't want to wait. So I'm going to split it up into 2 separate videos. So that OTA practice video should be coming later. Once it wraps up. But in any case, let's jump into the Saleh press conference. First things first, right? The elephant in the room. How is Aaron Rodgers doing? His health, the Achilles. Are there restrictions? Are there any sort of setbacks or holdups or what have you? And the answer is no. The answer is no, right? According to Saleh, although he did say the question would best be suited for Aaron Rodgers, from his perspective, what he said, there's nothing that is going to hold up the process from what the Jets are going to ask Aaron Rodgers to do in these voluntary OTAs, which is huge. So in other words, Aaron Rodgers is going to be doing everything in OTAs, which is great. And also too, a cool little side note, these are voluntary OTAs. Of course, Rodgers was with the team last year and attended them, but that was one of the biggest knocks on Rodgers coming in from Green Bay was, always going to skip everything that he doesn't have to be there. If he doesn't have to be there, he's probably not going to be there. But with the New York Jets, and he's even said it himself, it's kind of like a new breath of fresh air, with football and whatnot. So I'm pumped. I'm so pumped. And look, you can push back and say, all right, well, this was expected. They were talking about a potential comeback at the end of last year. Yeah, he should be good to go in May of 2024 for OTAs. Understandable, but still awesome sign. It's still such an important position, such an important player for this Jets team. The fact that he's out there healthy is awesome. Awesome. So moving on to some bad news. AVT not cleared to practice. Mike Williams not cleared to practice. Two important pieces of this Jets projected starting offensive lineup. Of course, you want to get those guys out there, but it's May. Not really too worried about it. If anything, I would say I'm maybe more so worried about Mike Williams as opposed to AVT. Why? Because AVT is coming off the Achilles, right? We knew the timetable as soon as that news broke, right? When we found out that Vera Tucker's, it was his Achilles that popped. It was going to be a long road. But with Mike Williams, kind of a different story here. There's some it seems like the whole Mike Williams situation is still a bit hazy from even the Jets' perspective, from an internal perspective here. They don't really have, like a defined answer on, okay, he's going to be back by then. I think he should be good to go, barring any sort of setbacks, by the start of the season. I'm not really doubting that pretty much whatsoever. But I think the big question mark is the start of training camp. Right, the start of training camp, which should come later in the summer. So that's something, it's such a huge thing to kind of keep your eye on. And also, on the flip side of it, if you're a guy like Jason Brown-Lee, or, yes, of course, they play different positions, but like an Xavier Gibson, and Malachi Corley, the Alan Lazard, right? These are more opportunities to turn heads in practice, more opportunities to impress coaches, impress players, all that good stuff. So, I'm... Again, a bit disappointed that Mike Williams isn't going to be out there. We knew he was going to just not be active if the start of training camp was in doubt, but still something to monitor for sure moving forward. But transitioning from that into some good news, Olu Fashanu's out there performing and practicing. Same with Tyron Smith. Now, they will be bouncing Olu Fashanu on the right side. Not necessarily saying today is for sure, but it is going to be something that the Jets are going to be experimenting with, to say the least, right? Just to get a feel for it. Personally, I'm just rolling Olu at left tackle. I'm not moving guys around unless the intent is, okay, I want to move him to right tackle, so we got to see what he can do. As opposed to, let's just flip him all around and make sure he's good at, 2 positions or 3 positions or whatever it is. So in the event that he has to play there, he can step in and play. I don't like that approach. Honestly, I'm okay with it with 1 to 2 offensive linemen in the entire group, but not every single one. And that kind of, outside of Dwayne Brown, literally I felt like every offensive lineman that the Jets had a year ago practiced in different positions, whether it was Mekhi Becton, Carter Warren, Max Mitchell, Connor McGovern, Joe Tippmann, Wes Schweitzer. These guys all bounced around quite a bit. And with Olu, coming in as a top draft pick, that's just somebody who I again, personally wouldn't want to mess with. But hey, the good news, they're both out there, including Tyron Smith, out there healthy and playing. Now, in regards to the positional battle at the safety position, Saleh did say that it's wide open. He said with Chuck Clark coming back from injury and bringing back Ashton Davis, of course, Tony Adams is going to be back there playing as well. But and also, drafting Key from Alabama this year, having Bernard Converse from LSU, this safety room is not set in stone. So I'm really, really intrigued by this safety battle. Although we kind of have a feeling who's going to be the go-to starters, probably going to be Chuck Clark and Adams at free. But safety's my favorite position. I think in this style of defense, safety's really important because if your corners are getting burned over the top, which not saying our guys do, but in the event that they do, if you don't have the range back there, you're just going to get ripped apart over the top, which we actually saw a lot of in Saleh's first year as head coach, right? When the cornerback play wasn't as good and the safety play wasn't as good. Think about how many deep shots this team what was experiencing, right? I mean, there was a reason why the Jets had the 31st or 32nd ranked defense in football Saleh's first year with the team, kind of transitioning from the 3-4 to the 4-3 zone heavy type of system. So again, the safety room wide open. We'll see who wins the job, but I'm thinking right now, early projection, Tony Adams, Chuck Clark. Or do the Jets bring in another veteran safety like a Quandre Diggs? There's so many good safeties out in the open market still, right? Justin Simmons is probably the marquee name, really in the whole free agent list, I would say, of unavailable guys or of available players. But yeah, again, we'll see how it plays out. And speaking of defensive backs, by the way, Robert Saleh did say that it's quote unquote possible that Sauce Gardner travels with the number 1 wide receiver. Now, he made it very clear that it's not like an every down type of situation. He kind of threw it out there like, yeah, it's possible to do this. It's on the table. Don't be surprised if we see it. That kind of vibe was the reaction that I was getting. And I'm cool with it, right? Again, I have my gripes, my concerns with Robert Saleh when it comes to a bunch of different things, but the one thing that I personally, that really nobody can question, is defensive game planning. I think is crazy. I think when you, and granted it's a time-tested system and the Jets have a stacked roster, so, if you're running this style of system and you have, speed rushers off the edge and you have guys that can get after the quarterback from the inside and you have quick reaction cornerbacks and safeties with range and linebackers that know where they need to be, having good, maybe quarterbacking skills from a linebacker's perspective, being able to conduct the defense. Yeah, of course, the defense is going to look good. There's a reason why the San Francisco 49ers defense is fantastic every year, and they seem to roll through multiple defensive coordinators all the time. But the game planning with Robert Saleh is what I'm most impressed with, right? And of course, development of younger players on the defensive side of the football. But I mean, man, the Jets made Patrick Mahomes' life last year in that one primetime game. Hell, I mean, they control Josh Allen every time they play him. They were really, really good against Justin Herbert. Really, really good against Jalen Hurts. This Jets defense can keep opposing quarterbacks in check. That's one thing that I absolutely love about this defense is no matter who's the opposing quarterback, we can go out there and they look not necessarily pedestrian, but they can come back down to earth in a sense. So I don't think anybody really should be questioning. And I guess you can maybe argue, well, how much of a role does Jeff Ulbrich have in the game planning as well, which is a totally fair point. Because if we were to lose Ulbrich and then the game planning just shoots down the goes down the tube, okay, then it's a little bit more alarming, a little bit more eye-opening. But in this case, with Ulbrich and Saleh here, and Ulbrich does call the plays, they work great as a tandem. So I'm loving this defense. And then last but not least, Saleh didn't want to address the rumor of the New York Jets potentially replacing Nathaniel Hackett this offseason. Maybe not, in the traditional sense where you fire Hackett and bring in a new OC, but because there were some talks that the Jets would essentially bring in another offensive coordinator, somebody to oversee the offense, but Hackett would keep the same title, but technically speaking, he would be demoted. That was kind of the rumor and some of the rumblings that were out there in this offseason. Saleh didn't want to get into that, but he did say that Hackett will continue to call the plays for this Jets offense. So, I had my issues with Hackett last year, working with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, but it goes back further, right? It's not like Hackett just worked with those guys and he's coming in with a big sample size of developing quarterbacks and having long lists of successful quarterbacks under his tutelage. We know the Denver Broncos fiasco that took place in 2022, just a complete disaster. Yes, of course, he was with Green Bay, but he wasn't the full-time play caller. He was the offensive coordinator with Matt LaFleur as head coach. And then before that, he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, Blake Bortles. There's questions about QB development there. Going back to Buffalo, I believe E.J. Manuel. I think Hackett was the offensive coordinator under the Doug Marrone staff. It's the whole Hackett situation, the whole offensive coaching staff, I have a lot more concerns with compared to the defensive side. So, at this point, it just seems like the Jets are not going to change a thing with the staff. So we're just going to have to let this thing play out. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, go Jets.